From the looks of it looks like Bitcoin is becoming an all utility chain, of which we got the Bitcoin knots and the Bitcoin core group battling, and it looks like there's need for a hard fork. Let's talk about that. All right, so I want to take a minute, share some thoughts in reference to the Bitcoin Core update. It looks like it's official. And so as of now, majority of the people will be running Bitcoin Core or version 30 of the firmware. And it looks like the developers, those that have been coerced and co-opted to trying to further impose a more centralized narrative to the Bitcoin network. And once again, the Bitcoin network has been active now for 16 years or so, and it has gone through different iterations and improvements or changes, which all points to a more centralized control. So you had Taproot, you had SegWit, you had the Bitcoin civil war over the block size and all those things to get us to this point where it's official. The Bitcoin Core 30 group with this recent update, they can care less about the overall sentiment of the consumer and the users of Bitcoin, or those that believe in the network. I can't even say users, because majority of people don't use Bitcoin. They have been taught and led to believe that it is a store of value, when all along the white paper suggests and hints at it being a peer-to-peer currency. And we're long past that point. But anyway, Bitcoin to me is doing exactly what it was created to do, which is to confuse, distract, and to distort the investment community. And so here we are now. I'm going through the social media sphere, and because this Core 30 has been rolled out with basically opening up the Bitcoin ledger to do more than what it was initially intended, but capable of so much. But then again, because there's two primary thoughts. You have the cyberpunk community, which want it to be peer-to-peer, which want to keep and open up things for the sake of being able to actually transact in Bitcoin. Then you have the centrally controlled narrative of it's digital gold, it's a store of value, it's a use of unlimited, unpotential credit that can be created on top of this and that. And now with the op return being implemented, that basically opens up a portion of the network to a larger capabilities for storing excess data outside of transactions in reference to just the ebbs and flow of monetary units. And so literally more data can be stored. And so a lot of people are wondering, like, what is that for? Why is that now? And what will come from that? For me, it's easy. It's going to be used for the dumping of a variety of sources of information. So literally the Bitcoin network will be used to become more of an all-inclusive ecosystem that will allow the creators of a variety of projects to basically dump their projects onto the Bitcoin network for the sake of using its data distribution capabilities. And so literally you're going to have more NFTs, more oracles, more things that haven't even been created yet. You're going to end up having data as far as video files, photos, and everything else that will be utilized, stored. And they're going to create, they meaning the people who funded and backed and pushed the core dev team to make these tweaks as far as opening up the capacity for the network to store more information beyond just the monetary units, as I mentioned. But literally, it's what hasn't been exposed yet that will shock the world or shock the community itself, because in order to make this change, clearly somebody on the other side of that, more than likely those who fund it and is in the ear of the majority of the core team to implement this, they're going to roll out some type of product or service that will be utilizing the Bitcoin network. And so literally, I'm seeing people talk about when you have Buterin, the Ethereum creator, I'm butchering the name, of course, but when he's out supporting the expansion of the data capabilities of Bitcoin, that quote unquote, the crap coiners are winning. And so I want to just thumb through a couple things here to highlight the overall sentiment and how people are really not happy with this update and considering it more of a capturing of the network. And ultimately, it's creating a quiet division amongst the community and the mainstream media, because I believe the mainstream media will not feed on this, will not promote this, will not even touch on this, because Bitcoin as a whole is needed by the United States government and Wall Street and everybody else. And so BTC, aka Bitcoin, will continue to remain the focal point, but underneath the hood, you're going to have a division to the point where I believe there will be a hard fork. And so there's some people call it for a soft fork, which is basically just the whole continuation of the nodes. Some people will run Bitcoin knots, which is the anti-spam network ledger, and then others will wear Bitcoin 30, which is the more open, and that's what is majority like right now being utilized. So what we're going to have is an eventual hard fork. Now the question will be, how will hard fork impact the price, impact adoption, as well as the whole governmental United States government's narrative of Bitcoin being a store of value. And you got Cynthia Loomis out here talking about the need for the U.S. to get involved directly. And as of right now, it looks like today at 3 p.m., there's going to be some type of announcement, some type of rhetoric coming out. Then a couple of days ago, you had the confiscation of Bitcoin from a illegal operations or something like that by the United States government. And then the question was, how did they actually get a hold of those coin? And that's where you lead to the ability for the withdrawal of funds from different types of wallets that, once again, they didn't have direct access to, but they were able to secure those Bitcoin into government possession. So that's just more things to concern with. But let's just jump right into it. So I want to give you some interesting headlines that a lot of people in the social media sphere is talking about, and it has a lot to do with the fact that people are not too happy with the whole Bitcoin core, Bitcoin knots narrative. And so ultimately it's going to lead to a fork. And that's where, you know, it's going to get very interesting, because how can a fork of Bitcoin, again, disrupt or impact the government's agenda to make Bitcoin the primary focal point? Because Bitcoin is needed in order to distract the masses away from gold and silver right now, which are at all-time highs. And our government here is so focused on Bitcoin. That's how you know that it's a setup. That's how you know the Bitcoin was and is going to be used as the primary distraction of the masses, even though it has all the monetary properties, everything needed to be presented as a way out of the system. But when the same system that caused the problems are now excited about it, that is more of a cause that people should really consider as to really being skeptical of where this is heading, and how bit by bit, it no longer represents the majority of people. It represents more of Wall Street / political interests, and not necessarily that it was initially sold to from the cyberpunk side of things. So let's just jump into it. So here on the screen, I'm going to just thumb through some thoughts here, let you know what the sentiment is amongst those that are more Bitcoin knots side of things. It says here, this is Bitcoin to oblivion. It says, when crap coiners start praising you instead of Bitcoiners, you should know that you lost the plot in the blank coin core. And so this is Vitalik Buterin, as I meant to say earlier. Greg Maxwell defends a principled commitment to freedom and open market-based resource allocation against the popular desire to censor the current hated thing. Says, fighting talk with Gregory Maxwell on the core versus not spam debate. So one person's opinion. Then you have another one says, Justin Belcher says, run Bitcoin core, mimicking the whole, 1984 George Orwell type of narrative here. And then you have here, we tried to warn you from Bitcoin Monk. It says, core version 30 is malware. Do not upgrade. And then it shows Alex B. It says here, I fully intend to use all of the additional op return space and will use it to make Bitcoin more like Ethereum, except better. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So Alex B, I assume, is one of the core developers as well as supporters of Bitcoin Core update. And the fact that this is posted here as of October 9th, and at that time it was 10.1 thousand followers, lets us know that there's more of a sinister agenda to this whole Bitcoin upgrade than anything else. And then when you have Bitcoin Maxis, the days after the upgrade from core 29 to 30 with this open-end spamming opportunity, you got Tone Vase and their discussion on Bitcoin knots versus core with Jimmy Sung and Adam Beck. It's going to be a real interesting debate there. So when you got Bitcoiners out here concerned, that's something else. And then here it says, here's another one. Bitcoin Monk says, Node Runner. This should be enough reason to never touch core version 30. Says, this is nothing new. This is how I treated since day one of this op return fiasco. These people don't know anything about me. They don't even care to find out that I'm a professional software engineer. So basically somebody blasting him for his stance on preferring Bitcoin knots. So just a little back and forth here. And the question he put out there is, Bitcoin money or not? And then somebody posted, Bitcoin is a solution to the decentralized chronological oracle problem in the computer science created by Satoshi and tuned for use as money. The chronological oracle problem is an old as computer network itself and solves for a handful of use cases, money being one. So once again, just the overall thought that the Bitcoin network can be used for more than just peer-to-peer cash is a true sign that it's being captured bit by bit, but this was a part of the plan. And then they said here, maybe you should read this, referring to the Bitcoin white paper. And so just this narrative here, all this stuff here, lets us know that Bitcoin has been captured. It's obvious. They don't care about the community. They don't care about the interest of the people in general, those who have become reliant and dependent upon the network, not for the sake of spending it, but as just a mere store of value and holding it, because the model is price only goes up because fiat only goes down. And so when the government's excited, Wall Street's excited, we got people creating banks around Bitcoin and digital assets. We got Wall Street with the tokenization of every single thing. We got Eric Trump talking about real estate is going to be tokenized. When you got all this blockchain euphoria or distributed ledger technology, this capturing the masses, that's more of a sign that Bitcoin, especially, and all the other cryptos will be used to benefit the same people who control the system now, and it won't provide any more freedom at the end, because by version 35 or 40 of this Bitcoin net ledger, you're going to have more of an idea as to what Bitcoin was intended. It won't be your friend. So you got a small window of time to take whatever proceeds, gains you might have had and put them to use for you, something tangible and real, because by the time we get to 2030, I believe, Bitcoin today won't be the Bitcoin that you might have first found out about or even started to enjoy and want to be a part of. So anyway, it's taking a minute to share my 2 cents, but everything here to me is quite obvious. But to the majority who want to ignore it because they're only focused on price, that's going to be to their detriment. Other than that, curious to see what you guys think. If you found value here, subscribe, take this, share it, find your favorite Bitcoin Maxi, share this with them and give them something to think about, because whether or not they believe me or the other people who I shared comments from, they're going to have to answer to these updates at some point, because it's beyond obvious that somebody's pulling one over their eyes. But anyway, catch you later.